So after 14 years, we finally have another James Bond game with 007 First Light, and today I'm going to get the Platinum Trophy. It's developed by IO Interactive, the creators of the recent Hitman games, which are incredible by the way, so hopefully we'll get this same level of quality, and from the reviews it might just seem like we will. There are 38 trophies in total, 18 for the story, 6 for collectibles, 9 for combat, and 4 for the tactical simulator mode. And of course, the Platinum Trophy at the end. And to begin, we start with the story. We begin by flying to Iceland. We play as James Bond, obviously. Currently not an agent, but an airman in the Royal Navy. As the helicopter reaches the coastline, it is attacked and shot down, leaving Bond sinking in the frozen water. He manages to get to the surface before walking along the beach, reaching a fallen colleague before spotting some armed soldiers. He sneaks past them before the radio sounds off, an MI6 operative takes over and walks Bond through to complete the mission.
This is MI6. We're taking control of this mission effective immediately.
He eventually makes his way towards a camp and gets inside. From here, he walks through the camp and gets inside the giant tent in the middle. He's asked to find a computer, but said computer is missing, and as Bond looks for it, he starts to succumb to a nerve agent. Eventually, he does find an antidote. On the escape, he witnesses a prisoner being put down, but is ordered to await an extraction. Bond, wanting to rescue the other prisoners, ignores it and heads in to rescue them. He rescues the two groups of prisoners before collapsing an antenna, creating a distraction and an escape opportunity. The group make a run for it, being chased by an APC with incredibly bad aim, but Bond and the prisoners become surrounded at the edge of a cliff anyway. And we unlock the trophy Icebreaker for completing the intro of the game. After the intro cinematic, Bond arrives at MI6 HQ for a meeting. He meets with M, the head of the 00 program, who offers Bond a position as a trainee. Bond then arrives in Malta and meets Greenway, the head trainer, along with the other recruits, and Bond gets his own training montage. And during this montage, we unlock the trophy Sleight of Hand for disarming an enemy with a gunshot. At the end of the montage, Bond gets into a fight with Monroe before the chapter is over. Bond travels back to MI6 and meets with M, going over Greenway's evaluation. M takes Bond to see Thea, a supercomputer that helps with tracking and predicting dangerous threats. But M still wants human agents to be around, so allows Bond to continue his training. Bond heads down to Q Lab to meet Q himself, the head of the R&D section of MI6, and to get outfitted with a Q watch. Moneypenny then gives us some keys to a safe house, and Bond heads over to check it out. Soon after, he heads back to Malta to finalise his training, completing an advanced course and completing another montage. The night before the final eval, Bond, Cressida and Monroe have the idea of stealing the flag before the trial can even take place. So they sneak through the compound. Bond reaches the room first and takes the flag. Monroe makes an idiot of himself, and Cressida has a boat ready at the pier. Bond ziplines down to the pier before jumping in, going off to rescue Monroe. The next day, at the beginning of the final eval, Bond reveals the flag and they pass the test. A bit later at the London safe house, they prep for a night out, and we unlock the trophy From Malta with Love for completing advanced training. The group then head out for that night out, before getting an MI6 alert on their phone beginning a field test. Bond heads off to the bar to follow up a lead, looking for a contact wearing red, spotting a blonde, but it isn't the contact. He eventually finds the contact and is told to check the men's toilets. Inside, he finds a tablet with more information, and when he exits, he's confronted by the boyfriend of the girl at the bar.
Don't forget to flush.
Bond gets a stab to pass security, and heads up to hack the target's phone. He then receives a priority message that a meeting is taking place there tonight, and to intercept the deal, so Bond traps him inside the toilet before taking his place. During the meeting, they manage to get the details of the phone call and complete the mission, and head to the exit, but he is stopped by the boyfriend again, and a brawl breaks out. Eventually they get out, ending the test, and unlock the trophy Shaken Not Stirred for completing this chapter. Bond and the group are then given their first real operation. A disgraced former Agent 009 has resurfaced and wants to turn himself in for a full pardon along with evidence of a conspiracy against the state. Bond is given the glamorous job of chauffeur and ordered to stay in the car park to block any exits for 009. They drive to the chess tournament in Slovakia, and the others head inside while Bond heads to the car park. But he witnesses something suspicious. A bellboy dropping a suitcase off the edge of a railing. Bond heads in to find him, borrowing a press pass for entry, and heads into the main hall. He talks to the owner of that briefcase, who points Bond into the direction of the laundry room. Inside the room, Bond gets into some trouble with the locals, and we unlock the trophy Firestarter for pushing an enemy into a fire extinguisher. Bond gets a clue and heads to room 206, discovering it in ruins before seeing the bellboy, now chef, transporting something into the building. He heads down and finds their maid lockpicking a door before continuing. He heads into a room with a puzzle, easily solving it, and heads into the wine cellar. There, he witnesses Monroe dead on the floor, and a bomb strapped to a pillar. But he is attacked before he can disarm it.
I promise, this won't end well for you.
After both assassins flee, he disables the bomb, however a second bomb goes off behind him. And we unlock the trophy I Expect You to Die for surviving the explosion. Bond wakes up and rescues Cressida before running after 009. Bond hops into a car and the maid from earlier also gets in, revealing herself to be a French intelligence agent who is also after 009. They stop at the crashed out car and Bond heads down to the airport to hunt him down. Bond fights his way through the plane, taking out many bad guys along the way, before finally getting to the plane. Bond fights through the plane, and during these fights, we unlock the trophy He'll Live for knocking out an enemy by shooting him in the leg. He falls out of the back of the plane, but not before throwing his watch to create a tracking device for the aircraft. Bond falls out of the sky and grabs a parachute from Bigard, before floating down to safety, and we unlock the trophy Skyfall for completing the mission. At the funeral for the agents lost, Bond meets Webb, an AI tech billionaire who constructed Thea, and then heads back to MI6. Here, Bond gets put on a mission to head to Mauritania to hunt down 009. Bond teams up with Greenway, and they both head to an illegal goods market called Aleph. They head in and witness the king of Aleph, Bavma, execute a civilian before heading up to try to get into the auction. Bond is rejected, being told that he needs $100,000 to buy to get in. So Bond goes to the market to search for the money. First, he takes over a stolen art sale and takes the money, then wins a target shooting game, and then wins a few fights in the arena to secure the $100,000. Bond and Greenway hand over the money and they head into the auction. Here, an attack drone is being auctioned for political favours. Bond and Greenway win, and we unlock the trophy Win, Lose or Die for doing so. They try and convince the man running the auction, Ali, Bavma's right-hand man, to flip, and they help them get to 009. Greenway heads on a boat with Ali, and Bond goes on foot. Bond sneaks through the rusted boat on foot, eventually getting to a jetty on the other side and hopping on board 009's boat. And eventually Bond gets inside and discovers 009's body, unlocking the trophy Nobody Lives Forever. Bond figures out that 009 was trying to send a message to Greenway and to look inside a ship in the distance. But as they both leave, they are KO'd by Bavma's men. Bond wakes up upside down above some hungry crocodiles and tries to wake up Greenway. Greenway mentions Harmony to Bavma, Bavma's sister who is missing. Bavma releases them and lets them go to the ship. The two then head off to the ship they found earlier and navigate the inside, eventually finding a case with documentation proving 009's innocence for an incident many years ago. But they are attacked by soldiers and have to fight their way out, and during these fights we unlock two trophies. The first, Damp Squib. I have no idea what that means, but we get that for hacking a grenade before it lands. And the second trophy we get during this combat sequence is Short Fuse, for shooting an enemy as he's throwing a grenade. Bond and Greenway get back in the car, but they're shot by an RPG and they try to survive. But they are soon saved by Bavma and his men. However, the evidence is destroyed, and we unlock the trophy Trigger Mortis for surviving the ambush. So, with no evidence, M shuts down the case with 009 dead, and Bond drops Greenway off at the pub and heads home. However, at home, Bond is attacked by a pair of assassins before being shot at by a sniper. And for surviving the assassination attempt, we get the trophy A Hard Man to Kill. During the scuffle with the assassin, Bond snatches his phone, and Moneypenny traces a text back to another phone at the web gala being held nearby, so Bond heads there. Bond searches the gala looking for the phone, and finds it in the bin of the toilets, but notices a CCTV camera, so he heads to the security room to look for the footage. Bond sneaks around to get into the security room and pulls the footage up, locating the assassin in the basement.
Basement archives.
He heads down to confront him, and we begin a stealth boss fight. We have to lure him into interactable objects around the basement, and eventually we hit him 3 times to finish the target. We hit him 3 times to finish the fight. Bond picks up a headpiece and finds out that the assassins are working for Webb himself, and that Greenway is also here. And we unlock the trophy You Only Live Twice for completing this part of the chapter. Bond heads up to the main hall and bumps into Isola, the maid/fake French agent from Slovakia, now calling herself Isola, and talks to Nicholas Webb's son, Damien Webb. Bond heads up to try and hack Webb's phone to gain evidence. However, during the hack attempt, he falls to the same nerve agent that affected him on Iceland. Bond wakes up in a chair with Isola next to him, and is hit multiple times by Damien, and I definitely didn't fail this section about 6 times. And eventually Bond manages to hack Damien's phone. With both Bond and Isola free, they make their escapes, with Bond having to fight and sneak through a building. And in one of these fights, we gain the trophy Disarming Personality for disarming an enemy with a laser. After getting outside, Bond finds a lorry bin and drives it out, eventually finding Greenway, and we unlock the trophy Agent Under Fire for completing the chapter. Bond and Greenway then head to Webb HQ. They head into the elevator and meet Roger Finch before giving him a bit of a stomachache. Their goal is to reach the Perch, the main office of Nicholas Webb, and the first section of their Webb HQ involves a bit of walking around and trying to get a few doors to get there. It's probably the weakest part of the game, there's not really that much going on. But eventually they come across a body on the floor and meet Isola again, who offers help to get into the Purge. Bond gets into the office and we unlock the trophy All-Time High for doing so. Bond disables the security override, which apparently also disconnects me from the game servers, and as he prepares to leave, Nicholas and Damien Webb walk in. Bond records their conversation with a security lockdown is then triggered, leaving Bond with only 4 minutes to escape. So he runs on foot through the building and using a zipline to get across. From here, Bond and Greenway disguise themselves as techs and get into the main computer server area. The servers are being wiped of any incriminating data, so Bond has to go in and reactivate the servers in order to download what's left. Bond heads in and takes out multiple guards, and we get the trophy Positively Shocking for having a guard hit another with a taser. After Bond hacks both servers, he heads back to Greenway. From here, the data shows that Thea, the supercomputer that MI6 uses, isn't as good as it seems and it makes mistakes, and Nicholas Webb has his son Damien cover up those mistakes to make them look genuine. Nicholas Webb then shows up and releases gas into the building, with Bond running to escape it. A lot of fighting takes place as Bond tries to reach the helicopter pad. After getting in and escaping, Bond lands with Greenway and we get the trophy No Time to Die for completing the chapter. Bond meets with M and she sends him to Vietnam to find more proof of Webb's actions. After a nice boat ride, Bond arrives at the resort. Bond is then given 3 targets that could be assassinated by Damien Webb to make one of Thea's predictions seem true. Bond heads to each one and gives them a pill, tracks their location and their vitals. Just before a party in the evening, one of the target's vitals shoots up, and Bond heads to the rescue. Two of the targets are actually together, and Bond attempts to rescue both. The first, Ellis, thinks Bond is one of the attackers, but Bond knocks him out. And the second, Bond has to go running after, fighting multiple enemies before finding her in a shack being set on fire by one of the assassins. Bond fights him off before being blown out of the building, and we unlock the trophy Double or Die. Bond wakes up strapped to a marble block about to be cut in half by Damien, and Damien mentions something called Hyperion.
But you'll never defeat my father. Hyperion will see to that.
Before Greenway fires at Bond with a sniper rifle, freeing him from his bonds. Bond then runs still handcuffed with Greenway providing cover. Bond eventually meets up with Greenway, who uncuffs him, and they split up to hunt down Damien. After some more shooting, Bond gets into a huge truck and plows down a hill to rescue Greenway. But as Greenway gets out, Greenway is hit, leaving Bond to go after Damien on his own. Bond finds Damien all armoured up and fights him, unsuccessfully at first. But as he brings him into a more open area, Bond uses construction lights to blind him, leaving him open for attack, and Bond ends Damien with a big pile of pipes. Bond heads back to Greenway, who dies from his wounds, and we unlock the trophy You Know My Name for completing the chapter. Back at MI6, and M announces that Nicholas Webb has been given full immunity from prosecution under a threat to leak MI6 details. Bond isn't particularly happy with it. He mentions to Moneypenny that Damien mentions something called Hyperion. In Greek mythology, it's the brother of Thea, so he assumes that it's yet another supercomputer, and plans to go to disable Hyperion to stop the leak. As he leaves, he receives a call from Isola, who offers him help to get inside the Antarctic base Hyperion is located at. And we get the trophy Solo for completing the chapter. Bond and Isola arrive at Antarctica and make their way up to the main foyer. Bond obtains security bracelets for them both, and they head onto the cable car into the main facility. He and Isola split up, looking for a way into the main office. After sneaking through the building, they meet up and find a computer detailing a full coup of the British government. Roger Finch then shows up, and he starts a security alert, leaving Bond to fight through to Hyperion. After reaching it, Nicholas Webb shows up again with a wristband that will leak the MI6 details if his heart stops. But Webb is then shot by Isola, who then proceeds to betray Bond and steal Hyperion for herself. But with Hyperion deactivated, Bond chases her and jumps in the boat. After a long boat chase, Bond shoots the Hyperion core, leaving it useless, and he and Isola are picked up by MI6. And we get the trophy The Writing is on the Wall for completing the chapter. Back at MI6, Bond and Isola are imprisoned, but the security alert sounds off, leaving both doors open. Isola makes her escape while Bond goes off to defend MI6. After fighting through a lot of enemies, Bond reaches a red telephone contacting M. After even more fighting, Bond heads down a shaft to Thea. Here, Damien is still alive and is attempting to steal it. After he stabs Moneypenny, Bond takes off after him and he goes through QLab, finds keys to the Valhalla and gets out. He spots Damien and gets into the Valhalla, a fully weaponized supercar, and unleashes it on the remaining enemies. After escaping, Bond runs after Damien and eventually fights him, taking him down in the first stage of the boss fight. It then continues into a second chamber, this time hacking turrets to turn on Damien, and this time takes him down fully. Bond and Damien fall into the water and Isola takes Thea before heading back down to save Bond. And we unlock the final story trophy for King and Country. At the funeral, overlooking Greenway's grave, Bond is given his 00 status and we finish the game. So, with the main game done, we have a few more trophies to collect for the Platinum. First, we have 2 combat-related trophies that I missed. After pushing an enemy over a ledge and landing on him, we get the trophy Soft Landing. And for using a gadget to escape a confrontation, we unlock the trophy Always Have an Exit Plan. And the collectibles. Unlocking these was a little bit awkward, some of them didn't unlock until I reloaded an area, but after collecting all assets, we unlock recovered assets. After collecting all MI6 files, we unlock the trophy For Your Eyes Only. After discovering all the legacy items, we unlock the trophy A Legacy of Spycraft. For collecting all the postcards in the game, we unlock the trophy The World Is Not Enough. For all the playing cards in the game, we unlock the trophy Casino Royale. And for all collectibles, we unlock the trophy A Collector's Habit. And that just leaves Taksim mode. This is a separate mode from the main story that lets you play challenges and scenarios from the story mode maps. The first two trophies we get are for the Escalation mode. After completing the first stage of an escalation, we get the trophy A Change of Pace. And for completing the Tier 3 of an escalation, we unlock the trophy The Readiness Is All, which doesn't really make grammatical sense, but anyway. Operations mode is a single mission with optional modifiers, and after completing it, we get the trophy What If. And our final trophy in Taksim is to reach clearance level 3, which is just the rank system for the mode, and after getting it, we unlock the trophy Keep Moving Forward. And we get the Platinum trophy, The Name's Bond, James Bond. And that is 007 First Light complete. I absolutely loved this game, easy 9 out of 10 for me. I will say that if price to time comparison is something that you do take notice of, it is quite short. Even going for the Platinum, I have a playtime of 17 hours, and it is a full price title, so put that into consideration if that's an issue for you. And yeah, before I end, this is probably going to be the last video for a while. I really want to change up how I make videos, and currently how I want to make them is pretty impossible right now. Hopefully soon though. And if you're still here, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.